Today's guest is such an inspirational young woman and is a kindred spirit and absolute lover of life. I met Rocio Cartes through a corporate coaching program, and it's been such an absolute pleasure to get to know Ro and to help her gain clarity about where she's at in life and where she's heading. The coaching was just amazing, like just wonderful conversations. And I invited Ro today so we could continue some of those conversations just about what inspires her and her, I guess, passions and what drives her to kind of share those passions with others as well. So I'm not going to go into much more detail because that'll unfold through the chat. Ro, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me. It's a pleasure. I had so much fun working with you, and you really did help me so much in my career and what I wanted to look for in my career. So I really, really appreciated that, and I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, me too. And really, we might dive into that a little bit about some of the things we did cover in the coaching, but it was a real pleasure, and all the coaching I do is a real pleasure, but we were able to sort of navigate some places that really opened up a lot of possibilities, didn't they? It was very free flowing. Before we dive into that, tell me a little bit about, what stage of life you're at, just where you're at in life right now.
Yeah, perfect. So after our coaching, I've decided, obviously, that I wanted to move on to a different job role within the government, which I'm really excited about. So where I am at personally as well is I've kind of got my own YouTube channels, and I have my own TikTok that I created to work on giving advice to people through about life and about fitness and health. So that's where I'm at the moment. I've also finished my studies on nutrition, and I'm studying fitness. So that will be opening up more doors for me to give advice on those topics as well. So I'm really just kind of enjoying life at the moment and seeing where it takes me, really.
Yeah, I love that. And just a little bit of background. So I met Ro through corporate. So Ro works in a corporate role, but is very much passionate about like living your best life, but studying health and nutrition. And you've set up your YouTube channel about sharing information that's important for you, and also that inspirational messages for your followers. We're going to dive into that soon. I don't want to go straight into that. Tell me a little bit about your family, because through our coaching, family seemed to be very important to you and have a very key, really shaped you for who you are. Tell me a little bit about what growing up was like for you.
Yeah, so I have grown up in a Christian family. So my dad's dad was a pastor. And so he came from a very, very religious, I'd say, family. And then we moved to Australia. I was about 4 years old, and just had very strong foundations there with like my morals and respect and caring for people and sharing things with people. So that's where I got that kind of passion from as well. My parents are still together. They have been together for 36 years now. Wow. And I've got a brother, and he is younger than me, but he seems older. He's very wise, and he gives me so much inspiration because he's just always giving me information as well. He loves to read, but lots of nonfiction. So he's more the opposite of me, where I like to read the fiction stuff. But he is just super inspiring. I think he's probably the person that kind of pushed me to create my YouTube channel. He's the one that kind of supports me in that a lot. And my mum as well, she watches all my videos. But yeah, growing up in this family, I've never felt like I wasn't supported. I've always felt supported. I've always felt loved, and something that I kind of want to give back to others.
Yeah. Do you know what that's, I really picked that up through our coaching, the sort of foundations and the values in life. Where did you move from? What country were you born in?
Chile.
In Chile?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were 4 when you moved to Australia. So have you been back to Chile to visit or not? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. I think I went back when I was 8, and then when I was 18, and then when I was 22. So
Okay.
I've been back 3 times, but it's been a while. My family's been back more than me,
Yeah.
but I would like to go back. I think it's been like 10 years now. So I think it's time to go back.
So do you still have family? Is there still family there in Chile?
Yes, all
Yeah.
my family's there. So I only have cousins that live in Sydney. They used to live in Canberra, but they moved to Sydney. That's it. Just like one cousin with her 2 daughters who are my age. So my cousins are older. And yeah, that's it. Everybody else is in Chile.
So why did your family move to Australia?
For more opportunities.
More opportunities.
Yeah.
That's a big risk, isn't it? That's a big step for a family to move away from their base as well. So there must have been that strong faith to and looking for those opportunities as well.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. The good thing is in Chile, they do teach you English as like one of the basics in school. So my dad, you know, he's the one that knew more English than my mom. It took her a while to actually learn. But I mean, I couldn't even imagine moving to a country where I just didn't know the language and had to start fresh.
A lot of people do that. It's huge. Yeah, really big. We take a lot for granted, I think. For people that haven't needed to do that. And also the reasons, sort of looking for those opportunities. And you mentioned about your dad. He's not a pastor, is he? Your granddad was, but is your dad's involved with the church? Because I remember you talking about him being very inspirational as well.
Yes, yeah. So he sometimes does do some preaching at the church. So when the pastor is away, he kind of takes over a little bit to help out. So our church is really very flexible. They're very, it's not structured in a certain way, which I really like. It's very chill. And so I think that my dad, because English is his second language, he does such a good job, and he's so inspirational to me because he what he says, he does. Like, he is who he says he is.
Yeah.
Which I think that that's where I kind of got that from, where I don't feel the need to kind of hide myself. I am who I am.
Do you know what? I love that too. And I think that is a really beautiful message for a lot of our listeners, because that's very much about what I'm about, is helping people to have the confidence and to be comfortable to show up, who they are. A lot of women don't. A lot of, through conditioning, through life circumstances, through a whole range of things, a lot of women don't feel comfortable, and a lot of men too don't have that confidence. So where do you think has yours just come from, just how you're wired, or is it your family support, the environment you grew up in? Where do you think yours
it's a mix
has come
of
from?
things. Yeah, I think it's a mix. I think that it's definitely from family roots, because I do think that they are very, like I said, very, very supportive. So having that is super important from the beginning. But also, like, I've been lucky enough to have like really good friends around me. I've never really got myself into trouble. Never really wanted to get myself into trouble. I think I always knew right and wrong. I think it's because obviously my Christian upbringing, I knew what we couldn't and should do, but it was never a restrictive thing. It was never like you have to be doing this and they wouldn't let me watch this or do that. It was very like, they told us, but they respected and knew that we would kind of understand it on our own, which was really nice. It was never really restrictive, which is what you hear a lot of the time with these religious families and upbringings, is that it's they don't let you do a lot of stuff, but it was more informative. Like, they tell us things, they'd say this is why, but you're going out into the world and you just have to make those decisions along the way, which was kind of nice. They didn't handhold.
Yeah, that's beautiful. To me,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's a balance of not hand-holding, but providing some really solid foundations about, just about how to live, and the support, like what you said there about they're a very supportive family, and also your brother is very inspiring as well. So even the way that you speak about them is very inspiring, because that's often, for some families that they don't have that mutual respect, or somebody might not agree with something, and then things get thrown out of proportion. But it sounds like it's a very solid foundation to who you are.
Yeah, definitely. And when we do disagree with things, it doesn't become an argument, it becomes a conversation, which I've learned that taking that into other areas of my life, if I have to have confrontations with people, it's, not to yell at them, it's to sit down and actually have that conversation as an adult to try and fix it. Instead of, because, I always knew that if you argue with someone by yelling and all that stuff, it's not going to do anything. That person's not going to listen. They're going to put up a wall. So I've learned that in order to make something work or fix a situation, it's to speak about it. Communication has always been a huge, huge thing in our family.
Yeah. And I think also when we talk in the workplace as well, I see a lot of conflicts happening in the workplace because people are not communicating. And they come in with a conflict being, I have to win, I have to, you have to see it my way. I have to win. And I really loved what you were saying is that conflict it's difference of opinions, and it's about having a conversation around that and trying to understand things from the other person's point of view, but you might still agree to disagree. And that's okay too, without harboring that, that resentment and anger. And I think that's where people can get a little bit stuck, is they need to win.
Exactly. And I mean, that all goes back to what actual tolerance is. These days you hear people talking about tolerance, and it's really like, I want you to believe what I believe, and that's not tolerance.
No.
So I had a quote ages ago. The pastor said it, but I know it's a quote that's famous, and it's sometimes it's best to be kind than to be right.
Yes.
And I really liked that.
Yes.
I thought that was that's just stayed with me this whole time. So I always constantly have that in the back of my mind when I'm dealing with anything, because I'm like, you know what, even if I am right, sometimes it can come off mean. So I'm like, I'll leave it, because sometimes it's just better to be a nice person.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing there too, Ro, is that it's a conscious thinking about it. It's not about giving away your power and suppressing who you are. But what I'm hearing is that you're kind of weighing up, is it worth, what battles do you fight? What ones are worth fighting?
Exactly.
It might be that, let's just agree to disagree on this one, because if I keep going on about what I think and you're going on about what you think and we're just clashing heads, then that's not going to be helpful. So it's kind of weighing up, how much energy do you give in?
Exactly.
And not giving away your power. Compromise. Yeah.
I think it's also because most people already have formed their opinions. They've already have a foundation of their beliefs. So there's no point in, like, you can say what you believe, but without having to be pushy about it. It can be like, this is how I was brought up. This is what I think, but I respect how you feel and how you think.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very rare now, which is really sad. But it's something that I like when I talk about things on my YouTube channel. I like to talk about that. Like, I like to make sure that even though I'm telling them these are my advices and issues and things that you can resolve with what I'm, saying, I want them to take it away, but also put their own spin on things, or not necessarily take all the advice that I give them, because it's not, my advice is not the best advice and it's not the only advice.
Yeah.
So
I would say I'm exactly the same when I'm coaching, is, here are some considerations, and I never tell people what to do, and hopefully you experience that, but it's about, here's some considerations, here are some things, how I might view the world, but it's about each person needing to come up with what's right for them. Because what I do is, what I do is might not be the right thing for somebody else. It might not fit with where they're at. And I get, I kind of get that little creep up my back when I'm in conversation with people and they say, oh yeah, you should do blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, number one, don't tell me what to do. Number two, you don't really know the whole story that's going on. So it's about sharing information, and then people being able to adapt that to what's going on for them in their lives.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So tell me, and we're sort of starting to dip into some of that as well, but your life, do you have an overarching sort of life philosophy or outlook on life? And I know that's a very big question.
um Not really. Like, I think that it basically is about just being kind to people, and having empathy is super important to me. Understanding that you don't know what's going on in someone else's life, so you should treat people in a better way. You know, I used to have really bad road rage. And I sometimes still catch myself, but the good thing is that now I realize when I'm doing it. I'm very aware of when I do things negative, which is good, because I feel like if I'm putting all this negative energy in and I notice, it means that there's a shift in my attitude towards things. And so for me, it's like, oh, you know, this person's going so slow, but then I start to think, but what if they've got a cake in the car and they can't go too quickly, it's going to go flying, or, you know, they've got a child, you know, things like that. So you start to understand people a little bit better, because you start to realize it's not just about you. And I think that that's what my life view is. It's not just about you. And I think we're just, you know, we live in such a world that's all about me. And I think that that's why you kind of get sucked into that, and you can't help it. Everyone seems to be in that kind of space of like, me this, and this is what I want, and this is how I feel. And so it's having to like remind yourself that other people are just as important, that your life, you're not the star of the movie, like you're all, you know, just cast members in the movie. And you have to respect people. And
I love that, Ro. And it's, for me, there is a balance, I think, too, because part of my message is around, you know, people being confident to show up as their authentic selves. And when you show up as your authentic self, some people think, well, that gives me the right to do things exactly how I want to do them and not give a shit about others. For me, that's not what it's like. It's about, I will show up how I want to show up, but it's also being conscious of the impact of what I'm doing on other people. So me being completely myself, that might not be the best thing, but, you know, instilling great relationships, because, you know, being honest and speaking your truth, yes, we can do that, but it's doing it in a way that is considerate of others as well. That's my take on it. I think I'm hearing that from you. And you are much better with road rage. I am, you know, that awareness stuff. If you ask my kids, there's still things that they go on about me at the school car park that used to stress me out like you would not believe. So they still stir me about that. And I'm aware of when I get agitated, but then I just still get agitated. I'm not quite at that point in the car to just shut it up. So you're much more evolved in the road rage than I am.
Oh, no. Sometimes I'm not there. Sometimes it takes me like until I like get to the place where I'm going. I sit there and I go, oh, probably should have been a bit nicer, or like I probably should have done this. I don't think I've ever yelled at cars. You know, I've given the finger, maybe. But even when people cut you off sometimes, or they go and they're not supposed to, and you're just like, what are you doing? But then sometimes you think like, you've probably done it before as well. And sometimes it's not. And when you realize the person's reaction, they're like, you know that they didn't do it on purpose. They didn't do it on purpose. They just didn't think about it. They just did it. And then they realize, oh, whoops. And you can't do anything about it after that.
I think that's a great view, is kind of responding versus reacting. That's what I get. You know, the response is, don't just automatically give them the finger, or don't just automatically yell at them. Kind of, you can be that instantly enraged, but why is that going on? And that's not just road rage either. That's kind of life stuff. You know, people, we don't know what's you know, under the surface for other people there.
Exactly. And I think that there's actually a book that got me thinking that way, and it's Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I don't think I ever finished it. I've got it on my shelf, and I read it when I was in London in, I think it was 2000 14. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it still sticks with me, that one section where he talks about like action and reaction.
Yes.
And exactly what you were saying. It's the way that you react to something that's in your control. You can't control the situation, but you can control how you react to the situation. And I always thought that was so interesting. And that's why I think that I'm so aware of it, because it's just kind of the information that's just stayed with me this whole time.
Yeah. I refer to Stephen Covey a lot, and that sphere of influence. You know, what things can you control? What things are in your control? What things can you influence? And what do you have absolutely no control over? And, you know, not putting energy into the things that you have no control over. And when I'm working with people, often they're putting a lot of energy into stuff that they just can't do anything about.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You can control your reactions. You can control how you respond to others. You can control what you say, what you think. And because a lot of people think that they don't have control over a lot of things, but they do. They have control over themselves and the choices that they make. There's a lot of people that say to me, oh, you know, I can't do anything. I have to do it. And it's like, well, really? Really? Is that really true?
Yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. I think that and once you kind of realize that, it's kind of powerful, because you realize that you actually have a lot of power in situations that you probably didn't think that you would have, if you realize that it's the way that you do things, you react, you talk, you know, the way that you act with people, all of that is under your control. So there's no excuse. You know, I always hear, you know, or see these things on the internet where people are like, well, I got treated this way by an ex-boyfriend, so from now on, I'm just this way. Like, I am, you know, BITCH because of what happened to me. And it's like, no, that shouldn't change who you are. You should actually continue to be a kind person. That person, you don't want to go to their level. You don't, why would you do that to other people, you know? So yeah, it is in people's control. So
yeah, and I think for me too, and it's one of the things, it's not about saying that I always respond positively to stuff, because I don't. There'll be things that happen that I kind of go, oh, that's brought up a whole lot of emotion and reaction in me. And I don't always do this exact thing, but what I try and do is just to go, oh, that's interesting. Why am I feeling or reacting that way? What is that bringing up in me, and why am I feeling that way? Is it something about me and my values? Is it something that, you know, somebody had said something that I feel has hurt me? Why is that hurting me? So I just sit and think, well, why is that actually happening? Sometimes I get insight from that little, just why is that happening? And this isn't just an instant thing. Sometimes this is days and kind of weeks, sort of going, why is that person, why am I reacting a certain way to that person when I'm not to other people? What is that about the interaction maybe with that person, or what's going on? And then if I need to, I'll go that next step to say, well, what do I want to be doing instead? How do I want to be feeling about that? And what do I need to do? Because I can't control that other person to do things, but I can control how I respond to it. So I kind of do this reflective practice, and then I take some action, and I make a decision as to either let it go or to do something about changing my behaviors or things. So it's a process for me, but I quite often have adverse reactions to people and things and situations, but I've got some tools and strategies where I'm not letting that weigh me down for too long.
I mean, that's amazing. And I think that that's the way that we should do things, because we're human beings. We're not always going to be happy. We're not always going to be in a good mood. And I think that it's so important. That's why I like journaling. They say journaling is really, really important, because you're getting everything down, and then you could always go, well, why did I feel that way? And like you said, you start to delve into that feeling of resentment towards a certain person or a situation, and it's the same with anxiety. And I think that's what it is. It's when you're with anxiety, I have to deal with that. So I have to sometimes sit back and go, but why do I feel so anxious today? Like, what triggered it. And obviously sometimes nothing does. Sometimes it just,
Yeah.
lots of little things just
Yeah.
build up and then get to you. But I also think that that's not a bad thing, because it does spark up those conversations. And I think I spoke about this to you the other day, and I think I said anxiety has this, conversation around it, how it's really horrible. And of course, you can feel that way. But I also think that you need a little bit of anxiety to tell you what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
If something's off,
Yeah.
your anxiety tells you something's off.
Yes.
And I think that's super important. Is when people say, it's the same with stress. When people say, I'm so stressed, sometimes that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. Because what it is for me, it's almost like your intuition or your gut feeling. There's something in yourself that's saying, this doesn't feel quite right. And then if you kind of tap in, what is it that doesn't feel right or isn't right about this situation? Anxiety is worrying about the future. Depression is, focusing on the past. And so the anxiety, that anxious feeling about, oh, something could go wrong is good, but we don't want to get stuck in that or have it ruling us. And, some people have very, very severe anxiety, and, they need professional help and around that and strategies. But I think there are some things that maybe we can do on a daily, a day-to-day basis that might help us to get some insight. And for me, a lot of it's just that self-awareness. I know my kind of benchmark, and I know when I'm kind of creeping out of that benchmark, and it's just like, oh, this is not my usual. So what do I need to do around that?
Yeah, it's good. I feel like me and you are very similar in that we're very self-aware, which I think is actually not that common. I did the what's the Myers-Briggs test?
Myers-Briggs, yeah.
Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
And I came out with the least popular personality. I think it was in 5% of the world or something. I was like, how?
Maybe not the least popular, maybe the
least
common.
That's the word. Yeah.
So that's the Myers-Briggs type indicator for those. There'll be some of the audience that's familiar. It's kind of a personality type based on extroversion, introversion. If you're more practical or more liking to see the big picture, if you tend to be more analytical or people-based, and whether you're I'm just thinking the last one about the decisions, whether you're more kind of flexible or a bit more structured around things. Giving you
very interesting. It's very interesting.
But do you know what? That's true too. Like, I work with a lot of people, and some are very, very, very self-aware. Others are just starting to on their journey, and at all different ages as well. And that insight into, and it's an evolving process. I find it an evolving process. I don't just go, oh yeah, one day I became self-aware. It's kind of just like, oh man, what's going on here? Like, I'm going through some stuff at the moment that's new and unusual for me. And it's sort of like, oh, that's interesting. Why is that happening? And why am I feeling about things a particular way? Because it's not normally how I feel about it. So I'm just sitting with that. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting with it and going, oh, that's interesting. Just going to see what plays out. And it's sitting in,
you know what, sometimes, Catherine, sometimes those situations are what actually makes you more self-aware. Like, it just, I feel like life, and I always say this, it's like, obviously bad things happen, but sometimes life would not be as, you wouldn't learn anything if bad things didn't happen. And I feel like those situations, the things that I've gone through, relationships and stuff like that, have made me understand relationships better because of all the stuff that I shouldn't do, So, so now, it's true when I say, with age, you become wiser, because you just experienced all this stuff.
You've just had more lessons in life. You've had more lessons and still don't just get presented with different lessons. And sometimes even with the more birthdays you have, it's still like, why am I still, why is that still
Yeah.
happening to me? I
Why
haven't quite learnt that lesson. Haven't quite learnt that lesson.
Exactly. Well, habits take a long time to
Yeah.
actually, I think it's 60 days. They used to say 21, but I was
Yeah.
like, that can't be true.
No.
I think it's like 60 days to 90 days that you actually can start, begin a new habit or break one. But yeah, I find that so funny and so interesting. And that's my main focus on my YouTube, is that on my lifestyle channel, is that I like to give people advice because I want them to take those shortcuts that I didn't have before, or like, don't make the same mistakes as me, So it's one of those things, like, obviously I'll probably learn more, and as I get older.
Yeah.
But being in my 30s, I thought, I'm just gonna let people know what I've learned, so then they don't have to do the hard work to get there.
Do you know what I find? The same, Ro. Like when we talk, it's kind of like, I 100% get that. The same. What I'm learning is that people, it is about giving some shortcuts and some tools and some resources. Sometimes they need to go through what they need to go through to learn their own lessons. And for me, and it's the same that you're doing. You're giving some tools and resources and sharing your pearls of wisdom that they can apply to situations when they're going through stuff, so they can navigate it. Is I find really helpful, because it's a balance. When we can see some things for others, and our lessons learned might help them, and that's what this podcast is about. But they also need to experience their lessons themselves.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
a balance. What else do you talk about on your podcast, on your YouTube channel? Tell us about that.
So it kind of started off, I've gone through so many phases. So it started off as like a book channel, and then I ended up creating a separate one for that. But then I kind of tried to do makeup, because I do like to do my makeup, but then I realized it's not something that I'm like super passionate about. And then I just decided one day, I'm going to start doing videos about, advice on relationships, or advice on even just like life stuff, or like health or fitness. I think I even did like an Amazon one where I was like, here's some cool hacks that you guys can do, or
cool.
Here's some Amazon products that are life-changing, kind of thing. So those kind of, it's very broad, which I like. I like the fact that I'm a little bit more, I have a lot of control over what I can show, instead of it just being one thing. And so that's what I've been focusing on. I did have a film and book channel, which it's still up. I'm not going to delete it or anything, but I've decided to kind of put that on pause, because I want to focus mainly on the lifestyle one. I'm more passionate about it. Like, I do love my films and books. I read a lot of books, but I just feel like the lifestyle stuff is more beneficial for people. And I feel like it's something that and you can tell as soon as I do those kind of videos where I'm giving advice about like things that you can do to take control of your life, which is probably my favorite video that I've done on there. You can see it. Like, my friends would message me and say, I can tell how passionate you are when you're talking about that. And people see that authenticity. And I think that's people are going to watch those videos because they're the ones that they can tell that you're being your true self, and that you're actually passionate about. You can actually tell when someone's losing interest in something. And so, that's what I'm doing at the moment. There's nothing else on that channel that is worth really highlighting, because it's those are the most important and my favorite videos to film. And I'm starting to do a few of the fitness, like my fitness journey, and kind of telling people also, again, shortcuts, or things I didn't know that now I do. So it's still a journey for me. I'm still kind of growing into that, because it's it's not an old channel. I've only had it for like maybe almost 7-8 months, so it's not very,
so not even a year.
No.
What is we've got the details in the show notes, but just quickly tell us what your YouTube channel is.
The name? So it's my name, so it's at Rocio, Rocio Cartes, Cartes.
So we'll have the details in the show notes as well. And this podcast, so some of the listeners will be listening on podcasts. Some of them watch on YouTube. So we play the podcast on YouTube, and I would encourage people for this episode to jump over to the Happiness Hive YouTube, because you'll see when Ro was talking about she loves makeup, she's absolutely stunning, and your makeup is gorgeous, and it would just be a good one to even watch this episode on YouTube. And we often do, for the listeners, we do just added goodness on YouTube as well. So you might want to jump over there. So lots of lifestyle stuff. What do you do on TikTok? I'm not, I don't know. I just cannot get my head around TikTok yet. I think that might be correlate with my birthdays, but yeah. What's happening
no,
on TikTok?
I'm very, very new to it.
Are you?
So actually one of the girls that I sing with in church, she told me that I should switch my YouTube film book channel over to TikTok, because I could do shorter videos with books. And I was like, you know what, that makes more sense, which is why I put a pause on my YouTube channel for that. And instead I'm doing it on TikTok, and it literally takes like 5 minutes to film and upload, which is amazing, because it usually takes 2 hours to do it on YouTube.
For YouTube, so it's maybe a quicker medium for a different audience. Sure. I haven't, I'm, a lot of my my peers hanging out on TikTok. I just haven't. I was hanging out there, but it was just like,
I'm still getting the hang of it. It's still things that I'm like, oh, maybe I could have done that better. And I see other people's videos and I'm like, oh, but I think it's all a learning curve.
Yeah. And that's what I think it is too. I think it's that opportunity to, at all levels. And we have, people that our tribe and our following that really relate to each of our messages. So I think however you do it, you will have people that will relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to dip back into, Ro, the coaching that we did, and not going through the real detail, but a lot of it was around helping you to get clarity around where you're currently at with your career and what some of the next steps would be. What would be some of your takeaways around that could be advice for other people that are wanting clarity around where they're at, whether it be in career or just life generally? So where they're at and where they want to get to, what would be some of the tips from your perspective?
What I really loved, and I think that this was probably the best advice that you gave in the whole thing, was that you said to ask the right questions and the right jobs will come up. So it was, what do you want in a job? What do you not want in a job? How do you want to feel? How do you not want to feel? And having that and writing those down made such a difference to me, because even if you think those things, it's different when you have them written down. And then when you start to also, I think there was also another time earlier on that we spoke about that you said, well, what are you interested in? And then I said, I like to, give people advice or help people grow and and everything was very people. And you were like, that sounds like a learning and development. That sounds like, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think of those roles. Like, I never thought that it's something that was kind of in my road to pick up on. So I think that also not to count anything out. So if you're interested in being more, like I said, more for me, it's growth with people. Don't say, oh, I can't apply for that role because I am an administrator, but you can still put those skills that you've learned into that role. You just have to word it well when you apply. And also, I actually noticed following this, when I redid my LinkedIn, I've been approached by a lot of people now that starting to jump up at me from what I've written down. And it's a lot of the roles are roles that I probably wouldn't have even thought to apply to, because I thought I wouldn't be capable of, or I would think, oh nah, like they probably want someone that's specifically IT or something. But there's all these opportunities that are popping up now, because I've kind of put myself out there and I've actually said this is what I want. And if people are approaching you, it means that you are capable of it, you are qualified for it. And I think that what I've learned as well with job searching and growing in my workplace is that a lot of the time it's more how you approach the role. It's not what you know about the role. So it's you bring your basic skills. As long as you've got those basic skills, you can learn anything. You just have to be willing to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway is being willing to show them that you're willing to learn. And that's, people don't mind, because you're going to have to learn their programs anyway, and all this stuff. So you got to start from scratch anyway, even if you already know it. So for me, writing those things down really, really helped me.
And I find too, I'm just so excited, and especially by getting that clarity and updating LinkedIn, and then people actually starting to reach out to you, because what for me happens is when you start to get clarity about what you want, and it didn't just happen, although actually with you it did happen pretty well there and then. But it's a kind of a process about, well, what is it that I do want? And that's whether it's work or life. What do I want it to be like? What's my ideal version of it? What are my things that I really want to have? What are the things that that are deal breakers, that if they're not there, that's not going to fulfill me? Or what are the things I don't want to be experiencing? And then how do I want to feel? For me, that's, the others are important, but how do I want to feel? Because often when we get attached to a certain outcome, and if that doesn't eventuate, then we kind of go into this spiral of, oh, I failed, life's not great, or, I've got this shitty job, or blah, blah, blah. But when we really dive into how we want to feel, the outcome might be a little bit different than what we were anticipating. But if we're getting those feelings of fulfillment, then does it really matter what that outcome actually is? And I remember when we were coaching, so we were together for a couple of months, and I remember that clarity came quite early in the piece. And then you were able to sort of build on that and look at, well, what opportunities and what else is there that I can now do to sort of navigate into that space. And it's interesting, not surprising, but interesting that now people are responding. I just think that that's when you get specific, you're actually activating your reticular activating system, which is it's searching there for those things that you want. And they're kind of, it doesn't mean that they show up instantly, but they're starting to. That's very cool. Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh, Ro, we could talk forever. We might even just pop over onto YouTube with a bit of extra goodness if people want to follow us, follow this episode there. So we've got your YouTube. People can follow that, Rocio Cartes, and also the details on social media. You can get those from the show notes. I have loved this so very much, and we need to continue the conversation. So big hugs and happiness for you, Ro. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed this as well, as always.
Yes, thanks. So here we are with some bonus goodness for the podcast episode. And Ro and I were sort of on a roll about some of the things about getting clarity when you're wanting to move forward. And Ro, you were talking about mapping, the importance of mapping things out. Tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, so this kind of goes with what we were just talking about with getting the roles that you're interested in. But I also do this with my YouTube. I think it's really important to, and like I said, you can see this kind of in the videos, and how much people put into the videos is mapping out the ideas and actually fleshing things out, researching. It's just so important to get those things right, because you also don't want to be giving people the wrong advice. Because you can give people your life advice, but if something isn't factual, it's really important to me, at least, to try and find out if that is the truth, because you don't want to be falsely leading people the wrong way. I
just want to dip in there. I'm just going to break in there. I a zillion% agree with that, because there are a lot of people that have had a lot of valuable information, but sometimes when they're not, and it gets back to what we were saying in the podcast as well about the impact of what you do and what you say on other people, because you might make a bit of a throwaway comment of do X, Y, Z, and people can respond to that, you know, that you're in an influential position, and we're playing, you know, I don't want to over dramatize it, but people's lives. And it's about being really conscious of the care and protection that goes with that. You know, the thing that pops into my mind was maybe the influencer who made comments about a weight loss drug, and they were in a very influential position. They made comments about it. So lots of people went out to get that drug, but it's actually a diabetes drug. And there's a lot of people that can't get that now for a life-threatening condition. And so it's about just being, you know, just being mindful of what we're sharing as well. I don't want to,
can be dangerous.
I don't want to scare people off, but it is about, I take it very, very seriously. And I know, you know, others do, but I know some don't. So yeah, sorry, just interrupted you there about the research and the facts and the details of those things.
And if, like, you know, with my, even with my makeup videos, at the very beginning will say, I'm not a professional. This is something I like to do for fun, because my way is not the right way. I don't think any way anymore is the right way with makeup, but I make sure to tell people from the beginning, like, I'm not professional in this. When I did my fitness video, I said to them straight up, I've done my nutritional studies, so I know what I'm talking about, but with fitness stuff, I'm not there yet. So it's always important to be very transparent with your audience, because, and from the beginning. And I think even at the beginning of every video, I tend to do that. If I'm going to talk about something, or if there is a topic or if there's something, part of the conversation that I feel like I'm not 100% confident in, I will say it, because I want them to not take it as Bible. I want them to take it as with a grain of salt. And I do.
It's almost like that disclaimer, isn't it, at the beginning, sort of saying, here's some information. This is based on my experience. It's not based on me as a, you know, a expert in the field or something like that. And I think that's, I think that's important to do that. But I really like what you said too about mapping everything out and what is it that you're, you know, wanting around things as well. And the research.
Exactly. I think that's super important.
And sort of getting that clarity around things. So sort of getting that insight that, for me, there's a lot of work that happens. It's almost like an iceberg, and there's a lot of stuff that happens below the surface of the tip of that iceberg. And it's kind of that reflection, that thinking, that, you know, setting intentions. I know when I started my business, my coaching and training business, so that's 10 years ago, and I was working for an organization that, it was a great job. It was a really good job, but there was just one little bit that was missing. And I just had this inkling, kind of going, I'm never going to be the boss here. And, you know, and I'd go, why is that worrying me? Well, it's one of my kind of drivers in life is to be the ultimate decision maker. And if I wanted to do that, well, where do I get to do that? Well, probably running my own job, my own business. Oh, okay. So if that's what I want to do, what could that look like? And I went through the exact same process about what are the things that are important to me? What do I want it to be like, or what could it be like? What do I definitely not want it to be like? And what are the elements I don't want in that business? And there was a whole lot of ideas that I played around with that. But then I got more as I got more clarity, I then mulled over that, and then I got more clarity. And then it's like, okay, I've got all the bits that are together about the business. So it sort of starts for me anyway, as a big picture. What could it be? Not what will it be, but what could it be? What things are important to me? What do I want? What don't I want? How do I want to feel? And then I start to get some new inklings about that. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is starting to head me down a direction. And that's that self-awareness stuff as well, I think.
It's breaking down your goals. I think that lots of people have really great goals. They just don't know how to break them down, which is probably the most important thing, is to break. Actually, no, the most important thing is to put them into action. But the second most important is to break it down. A goal, I've actually got a quote on my wall there: a goal without a timeline is just a dream. Which is exactly
and I think even at the beginning of setting goals is, why are they important? Why is that goal important to you? If we start from that point, like, what do I want and why is that important? Then absolutely taking action. For me, it's actually a staged approach, because a lot of people jump into action and they're really good at making things happen
for like a week.
Yeah, for a week, especially with
New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions, yeah. They're good at doing things, but it's kind of like, oh, this isn't actually fulfilling, or this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And because they've not really been clear about why they're doing something.
Why?
They're doing it because they see somebody else doing it, or, you know, their parents said that they should do something, or stuff around that. Yeah.
Which is why I think New Year's resolutions are silly, because I feel like New Year's resolutions, if you're going to wait till New Year's to do something, you don't want it that bad. Yeah. I feel like you would have done it before then. Yeah. Even if it was December 29th, like you would have done it on December 29th. Yeah. Like, why do you have to wait till the 1st of January to do?
No, I get that.
If it's that important to you, you will do it.
Just do it anyway. Just do it anyway.
I think the 1st of January is a great time to reflect on what your goals are. Yeah. But not to set new ones, to wait to that point to set new ones. I feel like, it's, you know, that's why you see the new people at the gym the first week of the month.
And then, it comes, I reckon this time, you know, a couple of months in, they're, they've lost their motivation and things. I set an intention. I set an intention for each year about how I, you know, what my kind of key focus is, and then the goals. I do set goals, but the intention is almost like an overarching umbrella for how I want to show up, and it's in flow. This year it's about just being in flow, that things will be easy, effortless, you know, in divine timing, and just in flow with what I love to do, how I want to show up in the world. So flow is my, do you have a word? Do you have an intention for
I love that. No, but I do have I have a mood, what are they called? The mood boards? No, vision boards. Vision board. I have a vision board, but it's got like, I need to I think break it down, because I feel like it's got very broad things that I want in general for the next few years. But I know that vision boards are supposed to be yearly, so I'm like, I mean, I don't think so, because I feel like if I look at that, for example, I've got my dream home on there. If I look at it and I go, that's what I want, I'm reminded to continue to save for it, kind of thing. So I don't think it is a yearly thing. I think
I don't. I know a lot of people say you do a yearly one. I've got a vision book, and I have bits in that I can. I do have a vision board as well on my wall, but I've got, so this is the next phase of what I'm wanting to manifest in my life. And so I kind of flick through that, and the vision book and my white feather that
I love it.
So, and it's also, I think I put a post up the other day about one of the mistakes that people make when they're setting their intention for the year, or whether they've got a vision board or a vision book. They sort of set the intention and saying, you know, I want this, and I break it down into goals. But it's about not only being grateful for what you have in life, but actually being grateful and thankful for what you're bringing into your life. So it's about coming from a place of gratitude, not a place of expectation and I have to make this happen at all costs. For me, it's a very different energy. And what we're doing is we're, you know, raising our energy level to what it is that we want to attract. And when we're grateful for something, then it's actually being in co-creation with the universe to make that happen. That we're not just kind of demanding that, you know, we get this new house or this whatever. Although we could talk forever, but maybe the people watching, they can jump over to your YouTube channel as well. Hope you do that. So thank you so much for your time. I absolutely love it. Love it.
Me too. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this, and as always, have had a great conversation with you. Thank you for having me here.
See you, Dom.
Bye.